What's up, everybody? This is Greg with Advantage One Brokers, and this is the ADV1 podcast. This is the podcast that we come to you each and every weekday with relevant topics and trainings, and we bring on guest speakers, such as our guest speaker today, Devon Sanders. Devon, how are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Cannot complain.
Good.
So Devon, this is your first time being on the podcast. Usually we spend some time just kind of, learning about you and finding out where you're from, how you got here, and we'll work from there. So you have a little bit of a unique experience, because
Definitely.
because you were a staff and appointment setter and stuff like that for somebody in another IMO, and it kind of got you into insurance, but got you to here. So tell everybody a little bit about your backstory, where you're from, how you got here, and we'll work from there.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Devon, and I am actually from Oklahoma City. And just a little bit about me is, to be honest, I have zero insurance experience, don't have very much sales experience at all. But in January of, I believe, 2021, I basically started out as a part-time dialer. I had actually just been let go from corporate America, due to like Corona and a lot of other things. So, I was just kind of kicking it, to be honest. And I had someone reach out to me, ask about, doing like some part-time work, and I was totally down.
Yeah.
So I started January 2021 as a dialer part-time, and then I ended up transitioning into full-time as a dialer, and quickly transitioned into recruiting in May. So I was doing like a lot of cold recruiting where it would be over ZipRecruiter, Indeed, things like that. So I basically was not an agent when I very first started recruiting, and it kind of got to me a little bit because I was like, well, damn, I'm supposed to be selling this dream to everybody because anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I just felt like I was doing a lot of the work, and the only thing I wasn't doing was meeting with the client, face to face. So I just decided, what the hell, I'm going to go ahead and get my license. So I did in August of 2021, and I started the whole contracting process. So in September, after 5 weekends in the field part-time, I ended up switching IMOs. So it took me 5 weeks to figure out that it was not going to be a good fit with my practice company. And, it was a really big blessing in a lot of different ways. And now I'm here at ADV1. I've been here, a few weeks. And it's been like such a great transition. So I don't really have a lot of complaints, to be honest.
That's fantastic. So you went over a lot here. So I'm gonna back up. You were a dialer, and
Yes.
you set appointments. You used their leads that they were buying for
Correct.
this person that hired you. You used his leads that he was buying and set appointments, and then you ended up getting into recruiting off of it as well, working
Right.
from in that capacity. So let's talk a little bit about the leads that you set appointments with. When you were setting appointments, what was the lead mix that you were setting appointments off of? How often were you dialing? How long were you dialing each dial day? How many calls were you doing? All
Yeah,
the
so
stats.
all the stuff. So I started out, dialing, and to be honest, I don't really know what I was expecting at first. At first, I was just kind of told, like, here's the YouTube video, here's what you say, do it. And I'm like such a doer. So I'm like, okay, do whatever, I'll do it. Like, yeah, let's go. So I, on my very first day, I set 7 appointments. I was like, oh my gosh, I am it. Like, yes, I can totally do this. But it was hard, and it was 7 appointments for 8 hours. So, or actually, I think my very first day was 12. And, I'm like pretty by the book when it comes to like clocking in and clocking out. I'm like in it to win it, basically. So I'm like, he told me the goal was 10 and I got 7. So I, it was a grind, like a really big grind. So at first, I was watching a lot of YouTube because I wasn't really taught objections at first. I was under the impression I wasn't going to get any of those. I thought that they were going to be, easy peasy. And even if I had like a list of 100, I was like, okay, perfect. These are going to get set. I'll work on these next week too.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not the case. But the lead mix was, some mortgage protection, but not very much.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, if any at all, when I very first started. It was all internet leads, 1 month old leads, pretty much all instant, or 1 month. So that was kind of what I was dialing for quite a while. I remember hating it because I could never get above 7 or 8 appointments at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a grind. I mean, I was there from like 8 to 8, and it was hard. I actually cried my first day, but even though I made 7, I was just like, this is awful. But I
Just
still did it.
psychologically draining.
Right. Like I literally took the biggest nap afterwards. I was tired. I was exhausted, and sitting in your chair just being told no and no and no. Like I didn't fill out this form. It was just draining mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of big differences as far as the leads here versus there. I mean, there's some pretty big differences, to be honest.
Yeah.
As far as like money invested, I am ashamed to say this, but I have almost invested $5K in 5 weekends, and I did not even come close to breaking even. So, just to kind of give you some perspective, I was dialing 20 to 24, 32 hours a week. So if I wasn't running, I was dialing, just because you need to treat every day like a dial day. And, you're tied to your productivity, basically. So I was dialing instant internet leads, 1-month-old leads, and I was just dialing all the time. The stats were, 1,200 to 1,400 calls a week.
Mm.
That was pretty normal. And, like I said, I invested a lot of money up front. I did not come close to breaking even. And, I'm the type of person who would really want to do something at home, like Zoom sales, telesales. But, you need to go into the home. That's how, this is how it's done. But, new things have come out, and, you're able to do Zoom and telesales, but you got to double your investment. So, as a dialer, as a recruiter, as a brand new agent, I didn't even have $2,000 to invest. Sorry, that's my dogs.
No, it's okay.
But I did not have $2,000 to invest every week. So it was just it was awful, to be honest. Money, I am low on money now. I know people have created debt for themselves, and that's awful. Thankfully, it took me 5 weekends to kind of figure it out. But, time is also a major factor. Triple dialing 20 to 30 hours a week. And when you're not running, you should be dialing. To now I'm dialing 30 minutes a day, if that. Not even every day either. So
it makes a huge difference. That's a
very big difference. I was always told, even as a recruiter, because I was supposed to say this on the phone, all leads are good leads. Absolutely not. That is a lie. That is false. So, so just kind of a lot of different things as far as money, time. My mental health was really, really bad, just because I was down all the time. I mean, they set this big goal. You're supposed to have X amount of appointments, and, getting yelled at or cursed at all the time, saying you didn't fill out this form, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, or you're absolutely not coming to my home, or, whatever. There was a lot of that. So just being on the phone all the time, or grinding in the field all the time, now I actually have time for myself. And it's a very big difference. I actually got to go to Target the other day. I haven't been to Target in a while, guys. I mean, just having stuff to do is pretty nice. Having a life is nice. I will say that.
Yeah. And so you, after you transitioned to becoming a recruiter, like you were saying, you had to get used to telling new agents on the phone, a lead's a lead's a lead, which, as you just said, is not true.
It is absolutely not true. I would tell people, like, I mean, I would get people asking me, like, how much do you have to invest up front? And I would be honest, like, nothing under 500, if that. Like, it's got to go up.
Mhm.
Like, I was always taught to cast a really wide net. Like, you want to give yourself as many chances as you possibly can.
Mhm.
Which, I understand the concept, and somebody who is brand new, not having any insurance experience, it made a lot of sense.
Mhm.
However, now that I have experienced A leads and I've dialed them in 2 states, it's pretty consistent across the board. You're not spending that much money. Definitely not $1,500 to $2,000 a week.
Mhm.
We're not doing that over here. And just having time and being able to be with family and whatnot, and not traveling just to be no-showed is huge. Because Zoom and telesales was not a thing until recently, supposedly. So I was always in the field. I was traveling 2 hours away from Oklahoma City, sometimes 3 round trip. That's about 4 to 5, just to be no-showed. And then I was dialing using my hotspot in between. So as my mom's driving the car, I'm like literally dialing, getting screamed at. And she's like, what are we doing? And this is what we're told to do. Like, I'm just following the system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I learned pretty quickly after following the system for 5 weekends in a row, because, it's really easy as a recruiter who's not an agent to say, oh, this is what you have to do, X, Y, and Z. It's real easy. Go out and do it.
Mhm.
But whenever you put yourself in an agent perspective, like, I'm now an agent. So I'm actually doing the work that I'm telling these agents to do. And if I'm not getting the success, but I'm, have a really good work ethic, I'm working, I'm doing the system, I'm literally doing everything you say, and I'm just not getting anything. And then whenever I reach out for help, it's the advice is just not there. The leadership is not there. I was literally told, guys, to dial, instead of triple dialing, let's just go ahead and try 5.
Dial a lead 5 times in a row.
Right. So,
Oh, man.
and I didn't really say much to it because I was just thinking, like, no, like, I can't do that. Already at 3, they're pissed.
Yeah.
They're so pissed at me.
What kind of things?
And,
What kind of reactions do you get from people when you on those leads when they would
I'm
answer?
getting cursed out. I'm getting yelled at. I'm getting hung up on. I mean, it was a grind. When I say it was hard, it was hard. Like, I mean, I don't like crying in front of people. I don't like doing that stuff, but I would cry. And I would just be like, man, like, is this me? Like, because that's what they say. Like, all leads are good leads. You just have to work them. Okay. So I do that.
You had a story you told me, and it was one of your last travel trips that you did to Dallas.
Yeah, so this was definitely like the turning point for me. So just a kind of a little backstory. My mom and I do insurance together. We got licensed around the same time. We're like super pumped to be able to do it together. So me and my mom, we live in Oklahoma City. We drove down to Dallas, which is where my sister lives. So luckily I didn't spend like a whole lot of money. The only thing I bought was leads, right? So we took this little travel trip. We went to Dallas, and our very last appointment of the day, I didn't even feel comfortable going into the gentleman's house. He was so nice, though. I just said, hey, I'm outside. Do you mind coming outside? He said, yeah. So I start going into the whole spill. Like, why did you fill this out? Did something recently happen? And he thought I was there to deliver his policy. So I just kind of looked at him and I said, what? You thought I was here to deliver your policy? No. He was like, yeah, let me go back in. Let me get this piece of paper. I'll show you. Because he was like, you guys are with the same company. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, he goes, he gets this paper. It literally says the practice IMO at the top. It shows who he met with, their contact information, what carrier he has, how much he pays a month, and it also shows the date. So this gentleman had been met with a week and a half before it got there. So it was by another agent that was within my own organization. So whenever I reached out to leadership, I just told him what was up. I just said, hey, I met this guy. This person's already met with so and so in our company. And basically, I'm just kind of wondering what direction do I go? Because in my mind, I'm thinking I absolutely don't want to create a chargeback for somebody who just got their sale a week and a half ago. So he tells me to go ahead and do a policy revision and try to get a better price in place. And
So just to dig into that real quick, you had now this lead was an instant internet lead. So
yeah, I went back and
supposedly
checked.
brand new, never been sold before, brand
Mm-hmm.
new lead, and they had already sat with somebody from your same IMO a week previous
Correct.
and
Yep.
bought a lead or bought a
Yeah, bought a
policy.
policy, and that's the advice I was given.
And
So
you were told when you explained the situation to your upline advised you to just do a policy review to see if you can put them into a new policy. Therefore, creating a chargeback for a fellow agent in the same company.
yep.
And
Yeah.
the
So
sad thing is that that's happening. That's happening across the entire organization.
well,
That's
it's
that's
also
happening
like,
rampantly.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I could tell because there was no like concern for someone else. Like I immediately thought in my head, if that were me, I would not want someone coming in behind me from my own organization and just saying, "Oh, let me get you a better price." Like, no. And the price was very insignificant. Like it was $25 a month.
Yeah,
So if you're gonna have a hard time paying $25 a month, like I'm not the person to give you insurance.
yeah,
So, um, you know, I didn't want to create a chargeback for someone else. Ethically, I didn't feel good about that. My mom didn't feel good about that. So obviously, during that, I just wished the man well. I looked over the sheet with him and I just told him, like, hey, if something happens, you need to basically put this in a safe place. Let your beneficiary know. If you ever need to increase, cancel, decrease, whatever you got to do, make sure you reach out to this person. Like I, did some education with them, but that's what I was told to do. And then I just left. I literally left Texas. I actually got on Instagram. I saw Crystal, I saw Jenna Coro, and I saw Patrice. And all of them were kind of posting the same thing. So I was just like, well, I literally have absolutely nothing to lose.
hmm,
So let me just go ahead and check it out. Let me just ask some questions and I'll see how it goes. So I reached out to a couple of different people and, that was kind of the turning point for me, which was I can't do that to someone and it's wrong. So whenever I brought it up, I think the following Monday, I just said, hey, I need to talk. I'm having some issues. So I kind of explained the situation. And whenever I brought up that specific scenario, I said, hey, you gave me this advice. And, to be honest, I don't want to be the person that creates a chargeback for someone else. So I didn't feel like that was right. And I didn't do that. He was, yeah, that makes sense. Then why'd you tell me to do that? So then I just, after
because
the
it's a learned
conversation
behavior.
I just knew that that was not my home. That
Hmm.
was not something that I kind of wanted to be a part of in any way, shape, or form. And I'm really glad that I did reach out. I'm glad that I asked a lot of questions. I'm glad because my whole situation has changed.
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways. I mean, as far as leads go, I'm not investing a lot of money. I mean, I have invested some, but it's not $2,000 a week. I actually have a life now. My mental health is better. You actually have time to like read and like learn things, and you're not like grinding with your blinders on. And I do want to do stuff from home. I do want to do Zoom. I do want to, be able to do that. I don't want to go into the house. It's not something I want to do. So whenever I knew that you made 190K a month and all over Zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can do it, then I can do it. So
exactly.
I literally was just like, what is he doing that we're not doing? Oh, he's not going into the home. Like, that makes more sense. Like, there's more time in your day to actually do things. And I'm not traveling. And I mean, just the quality of leads that I have, like, let me just put this into perspective for you. Dialing 20 to 30 hours a week. That's literally a whole part-time job in itself, guys. So 20 to 30 hours a week, you're dialing. To now 30 minutes max. I mean, per day. Like, if I want to dial every day, it's probably 20 minutes, if that. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm actually being greeted with like, hi, how are you? Or like, they knew why I was calling. They were like, oh yeah, I submitted that form. Thanks so much for giving me a call. Let's book this appointment. I literally was like, what was that?
Say that one more time.
Yeah. I think my phone cut out. Can you just go ahead and please like repeat that? They knew why I was calling. They knew what they filled out. They knew it was mortgage protection. I think I got maybe 2 objections, and they were a few week old leads from Jax. And she actually called them back with me because I could like sense some hesitation in their voice. So she was like, we'll just call them together. What? You're going to call a lead with me? So we got on 3-way. She called. I mean, it just made everything way better. But I mean, I'm not dialing. I actually have a life. I'm actually not like mentally gearing up for all the objections. Mm-hmm. And, I've called in 2 states. So I've called in Washington and in Oklahoma. And the response is the same. Like, it's very, very consistent. Just to kind of give you like some stats. I think Jax gave me 10 A leads. I booked 5. She's already sold 2 or 3. The other appointments haven't happened yet.
She had a massive one on Saturday.
Huh?
She had a massive one on Saturday, like $660 a month.
I know. And guess how many times I spoke to that guy?
How many?
3 times, because he like we weren't sure if we were going to do it in person or over the phone. He was just like, I would really prefer it in person, but like, if you guys can't make it work, like, I guess we'll do it over the phone. So I kind of finessed it, and I was just like, oh, we moved around the schedule. It's totally fine. We'll meet you at this time in person. He was like, all right, cool. And then I'm like, I'm sorry, you sold it for how much a month? And she told me, and I was like, wow. Because that's kind of just like unheard of. Yeah. Especially with the leads I was previously using. That's not something that exists. And just for myself, I've had some leads come in. I purchased 10 A leads. They all have not come in yet. So this is really great, guys. Just listen. 3 out of 4 leads I booked an appointment with. And ADV actually refunded me for one of them because the guy was 86. So I was refunded or given like a credit because he was like, oh, maybe this won't work, but we'll just refund you just in case. Like, I've never been refunded the $11 that I spent on a lead that wasn't good.
Yeah. So like if you get a lead, or they're outside the age range, or if there's no phone number, if they do not write a phone number and they put just like mail the information, which sometimes people do that for mailers. Mm-hmm. If you get that as a piece of mail, you get refunded. You get credit
Right.
back in your so that you can get another lead. So if it's local to you, you can door knock it and you can still try to use it. If it's something that's outside the age, you can see if maybe you can help a family member, a child, a grandchild, or maybe a spouse that's younger, but
Yeah.
you'll get refunded if it's fits within those two parameters. So,
Right. So even like, let's just knock that one out. I'm 3 for 3 to make the appointment. So I'll be honest, I have had some reschedules, but I'm like not really tripping about it just because I know that the quality is there. Um, and they were receptive to rescheduling. They were just like, it wasn't just like, oh, just forget it, click. So I mean, just the difference in lead quality really does make a difference. So when people tell you, oh, all leads are good leads, that's false. Like, don't listen to that. You should really question it. And just my experience, whenever I went to Dallas, I counted how many leads I got, over 300. 71 of them were only phone number, address, and name. So that means like, so whenever I ask about that, the feedback I was given was, um, what was it? They just didn't fill out the form all the way. Then why am I buying the lead?
yeah.
So
Why am I getting charged for a full lead if they didn't fill out all the information?
right. And so there was also, a lot of things that I would question in my head that I wasn't necessarily willing to come out and ask just because I didn't feel safe enough to do that. And, I already knew the response. I already knew what I was going to get. They filled out multiple forms. That's why you're getting, that's why they're getting so many calls, because they fill out multiple forms.
So this is just me. This is just me. Now, if I filled out something to get insurance and I sit with somebody from X company, I sat with them and I purchased a plan for $26 a month, am I turning around and doing it again? Does that make any sense at all? No. Why would I spend my time asking for the same thing that I literally just purchased?
Right. Yeah, and I have seen a lot of red flags, even from day one that, I just kind of went with it. I was just doing what I was told. But then whenever I got into recruiting, I kind of was like, all right, it's not just me. It's everybody I'm recruiting. Yeah. Like, I text these people. I'm the one babysitting them, if they're not finishing their course. I'm the one who has to communicate with them. So I want to be upfront and honest with them. And it was hard for me to do that. I would say my last 2 weeks, because I just kind of knew like, okay, maybe insurance isn't for me. Maybe this is not it, but anybody can do it. So I'm just wondering like, what's going on here? But I can just say, the leads are very different. Hardly any objections. I think one I got was, oh, I didn't fill it out. And I ended up booking the appointment because I was like, oh, yeah, you did. Like, it was the one where you put X, Y, and Z. This is your mortgage lender. And he was like, okay, yeah, okay, I did. And then I booked it. And she ended up selling the appointment. So, obviously I know how to handle objections. But just the lead quality, I only had one, guys, out of, 15?
Yeah.
So it's just it's night and day different. I'm 100% happy that I made the switch just because I know that the lead quality is there. Like, everyone always says leads are the lifeline of your business. So I'm just not understanding why some people don't take that seriously.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So what's sad is that I've not heard, well, this is not the first time that I've heard from any other agent horror stories of, uplines telling them to replace another agent's policy that's in the same company. Mm-hmm. Having a massive amount of leads that are resold, obviously. I had an agent myself when I was still at the practice company that, he was calling these leads, instant leads, by the way, and he gets one on the phone, gets about 6 seconds into his script, into his intro, and they're like, "Hey, you're from XYZ company, right?" And he's like, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how do you know?
How did you know that?
How do you know that? And so they're like, "Yeah, I just sat with somebody last week and they got me this." And it started a conversation. It's like, well, why'd you get that? Why did you do that? And then he ended up getting them a different policy. Because he had a conversation with them and he did it right there over the phone. But still, like, that's not okay. And then the whole company's wondering why everyone's chargeback ratios are so high, why everyone's getting so massive amount of chargebacks. Do you know that the one company that they push, okay, the one company they push, if you write a policy and within the first 30 days, the 30-day free look period, if it cancels, it does not go negative on your persistency ratio. So if you write a bunch of business and it cancels within the first 30 days, your persistency ratio still looks awesome. If it's nothing's canceling from month 2 on.
Right.
So, but how many people are getting their chargebacks because they're using that one carrier a lot, and then they're getting chargebacks within the first 30 days because you're taking the same leads and you're reselling them to the same group of agents over and over and over again. And so people go in there and they're desperate because these people are getting hammered on the phone by multiple companies. Obviously, I heard that there's a telesales company that does insurance that gets these leads first.
Oh.
And that's why they're like, I've been called 30 times already about this, because they're going to a telesales agency first to try to get a final expense over the phone, and then they're resold to you guys, the agents. And then you wonder why they're beat up and they're not answering the phone.
Yeah, I mean, even just like, I've experienced that too. My situation is definitely not unique when it comes to that. And, even as an admin, you would be expecting, like if it were my admin, I would be expecting like a little bit more leadership or hands-on type of, I guess, training, right? So the leadership has also been very, very different. And, just speaking of the same carrier that you were just speaking about, something that really stands out to me is ethics. And my personal situation with that carrier is, I actually did a quote the other day and got 4 times more the coverage, and all I did was just match my monthly payment amount. So that just goes to show right there that I was put with that carrier before becoming an agent. So basically I took out an insurance policy for me and my husband, and we're 100% overpaying. And we're also overpaying because somebody wanted a bonus.
Yeah.
So, just like, why? I just don't understand. If it were me, how much I get paid, and it just, obviously, it's very evident I was placed with a certain carrier just so somebody could benefit, money-wise. So looking back and, also being uneducated. Like, I was uneducated and I thought I had the best thing out there. I was like, oh my God, I am an adult now. I have like life insurance. So I was excited about it. And now just knowing that there's more out there, and, there's other carriers I could have went with that are a lot less expensive. So I was 100% overpaying, and it's just kind of unfortunate because that's really crappy. I wouldn't do that to my admin, and I wouldn't do that to my friend.
Yeah.
So
no, you're absolutely right. I want to say that we covered just about everything that you talked to me when you were like, hey, I want to share this. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that you were brought on by talking to Jax, and you basically started setting appointments with Jax. on her
Yeah,
leads that are
so
through EV1, and you were like,
mhm,
holy, you saw the difference. You're like, whoa, these are a lot different.
yeah.
So,
No, I mean, just because I've been dialing for so long, I've been like, okay, well, let's just see what this is really about.
hmm,
And I mean, it's so different. It's so night and day different. Like when people really say that they are not dialing for 12 hours, it's so real. You know, I'm 3 for 3 for my appointments. I have had some reschedules, which is not a big deal. All my leads still have yet to come in. I mean, these people actually know why we're calling, which is great because they're not hanging up on you. They know what they filled out, so they're aware it's mortgage protection, and they're also aware it's not free. So they're aware that they got to have a bank account,
hmm,
which is really nice, because they're aware of what they're requesting, and it really does make the difference. And I mean, just as far as leadership goes, leads and leadership do matter. So whenever you're picking an IMO, I highly recommend you consider those two things. And just to kind of paint the picture and to really put it into perspective, when I approach my manager with my concerns, about leads, it's very night and day different. I was told I needed to dial 5 times. I was told I needed to. The good thing about the phone is they can't come through the phone and hurt you. Like,
that was the advice
that's
he
what
gave
I
you.
was told. So anytime I even get something strange, or even if I have an objection, the leadership here is like, what? Yeah, let's just call them back together. What? You're going to call the lead with me? So, I mean, just like having somebody to actually show you the difference, it really does make a difference, like mentally for yourself and for your business, so you can now know how to handle that in the future. And you would have thought as an admin that there was going to be, you know, I don't know. I expected more and I didn't get it. So, just being told to dial more and buy more leads is really not the answer. With Advantage One, you know, we're actually calling leads with you because we don't have a dialer. There's no point in that. So it does make a difference. So definitely recommend considering those two things.
Absolutely. Well, Devin, I appreciate you coming on and having a short chat with me. It sucks that you had to experience the things that you did experience, um, with the previous company, but you don't know how good you have it sometimes unless you play around in the mud with the pigs. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
so
no, I am. I mean, I did learn a lot and I'm grateful, but I'm also grateful that, I trusted my intuition and realized that there is more out there. So
yeah.
I'm grateful to be here and thank you so much for having me. And,
Yes, ma'am.
I hope people get value from this and I hope, people really do understand that there is a difference and not all leads are created equal.
Yeah. And for those of you watching, if you're listening to Devon's story, Devon coming from being a dialer that just dial leads and set appointments, appointment setter to recruiter to agent to ADV1 agent, and you listen to her story and you're finding similarities in how your upline is treating you and the lead quality and your chargebacks and your policies being replaced by people within the same company, and having to spend 20 plus hours a week dialing, literally a part-time job just on the phone on phone burner. If you're hearing this, there is help and we want to help you. Reach
Yeah,
out.
make sure you guys are literally considering, like, you want to work smarter, you don't want to work harder.
Yeah.
And this is the place you get to do that.
You can reach out to anybody here. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Devon. And Devon, if somebody watches this and they say, man, I really like the way that she talks and holds herself and speaks about things, and I'd like to learn from her, or I'd like to work alongside her, how could they get a hold of you, Devon?
Yeah, so you guys can reach me on Instagram at the Sanders Life, or you can just send me a text. And my number is 405 501 4905.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devon. Thank you for taking the time to come on board and talk with me
Yeah, no problem. You're
and
welcome.
share your
Thanks so much
story
for
with.
having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. For all of you watching, thank you so much for taking part in the ADV1 podcast. We're coming to you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notifications button so that you can get the content as soon as it hits daily. We have one fee. The fee is very simple. If you enjoyed this, if you got anything out of this podcast by listening to Devon or our conversation, then share it with somebody else that could also get value from listening to this.